Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Smart Networker. It is the first Monday in January 2022. So it is the third, and here we start a new year, and boy, lots of good things happening. So I got a special topic today, and this is coming from what we call a frequently asked question arena. So let me put the PowerPoint up and get underway here. Not that one. Not that one. And okay, this one. Here we go from the beginning. Okay, so frequently asked questions and on building your Nikken business. Now, the way that I do these, just to make sure you understand, is I speak what's on the written page, and it's a dual form of learning and education. So after we do this live presentation, people are going to view this on their own from another perspective. You may direct them here to, check out this, and so it's part of a learning process. So it's very important. So you get both the audio and the written, and this way it allows you to, clean up any words that you don't really understand well and have trouble with. Okay. So here's the question number one. What do you say to open the door when talking about Nikken? So this is starting the conversation. Now, I was trained on creating scripts, and by this I mean that all the jobs that I did growing up that had to do with marketing or getting somebody to purchase what I had was using a script. So it's a familiar process. So whenever I wanted to market something or tell somebody else about it, I first created a script, and it gave me a pre-planned approach to, talking with somebody else. Now, there are a number of different circumstances that this could be dealt with here, and it basically starts with what's the situation going on, and that you have to determine. So in my time, and I don't see much difference today, I was really looking for me. And by this, I mean I wanted to talk to somebody who was on a similar boat or in the same boat or thought the same kind of way that I did, was business minded or had similar interess or talked the same language, whether that's money, health, community, environment, whatever. Now, this was usually arrived at through good social conversation, based on where you were and what was going on. So, you'd start off with, well, how are you? And what do you do? And where are you going? And what brings you here? Or, who do you know here at a party or social gathering? And you're on a plane or a train or a bus. Is this a business trip or a vacation? Something to get the conversation going. And you want to be the one that's starting the conversation as much as you possibly get. And of course, the goal was to end up talking about business to see if they were interested in exploring Nikken. Okay. Now, I like the subtle approach, and I like to create the scene where you ask me what I did versus me asking or just, coming out and start pitching them. What's this is what I do. I want you to look at it. Now there were circumstances where that happened, but I like to create that situation where you would say, "Well, what do you do?" And when they said, "What do you do?" that was the license for me to go full tilt boogie and here's what I do and this is what we're going to do and I want to get you it. That kind of the intention to get the job done. So if I asked you what you did, you told me, say you were an accountant. Then I know what you do. And then if I needed more information, please mute. I could ask, or if I need your services, I could ask for your services. And oh boy, let me just pause here for a second. And
It's Laurent. Laurent is new on. That's the one that needs to mute. You need to mute Laurent.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Interruption. It's life. That's happened. So If I asked you what you did and you told me you were an accountant, for example, then I know what you do. Then and if I need more information about what you told me, then I could ask you. I mean, that would be the normal course of business. So if I, as a business guy, and I ran into you and you said, I'm an accountant, I said, oh man, I got to do my taxes. Conversation. So two things I was looking for. The first was the ability to communicate well. How did the person I was talking to communicate back? How did they respond to my questions, and were they interested in what I was talking about? And how interested were they? Now you can tell this by, they lean forward or their ears fan out or, their eyes pop or whatever the case may be. And it's, after a while you get to, you become good at observing what's going on. So now I want to provide exciting and interesting information about what I do, as this is the key to get them interested in asking the next question. So as an example, I'm in the distribution business and I distribute products in 10 countries around the world. Okay, interesting comment. So do they know what that means? Are they curious? Does that get them in communication, and does that get communication going, and do they ask another question, and on and on? Now, that should create some interest and more questions and more conversation. And again, that's the whole idea. That's the whole idea, is to get into a conversation about Nikken, period. That's what you're going after. That's the primary intent when you run into somebody and you start to talk to them. That's and I had that viewpoint with everybody I talked to. Now, if they say that sounds interesting or ask another question, then you're on your way. And sometimes I've experienced nothing. They don't ask me what I do, so I don't tell them. And that's the end of that one, and we talk about whatever else. Now, when I'm looking for somebody who's curious and looking. Curious and looking. Then what I say opens up their opportunity to ask and find out, because they want to know, and here's why, because they have something they need or want or desire that they aren't getting, and what they're doing isn't providing for them. That's the key. See, people become curious and ask questions when what they're doing isn't working for what they want. So this is the key to how you communicate and what you say. Now, depending on whom I'm speaking with, will depend on the opening line or the conversation that will be initiated. So let's look at some examples here and see how this plays out. So what you're looking for is someone who wants to play, someone who is not going, what do they want from what they're doing? They're not getting it. And someone who is dissatisfied, someone who's yet to make it, versus somebody that's already made it. Somebody that's already made it isn't as good as prospect as somebody that's yet to make it. Someone who needs to change their life or lifestyle. Someone that needs to be recognized. Now, this is very important. And someone who loves communicating. Someone that is outgoing, friendly, good-natured. Someone that is aggressive, someone that wants success, not someone that doesn't. So by asking questions, you can easily find out what is going on with this person. And in my 32 years of doing Nikken, one of the above factors was a factor of why everybody joined. So, and I've done many surveys and found that the reason that most become a distributor was to earn money. But it was based on the efficacy of the products and the results people got. So I wanted to find those that will, not those that won't. And this is a very, very important statement. So let's talk about with a friend. And I know this is a big topic for new folks that are just looking at this business or just getting started, how to start. So when I started, I was told to put together a list of, 100 or 200 people. Well, I didn't have that. I had a list of 15 people. 8 didn't want to talk about that with me, and the remaining 7 I was able to sit down and have a conversation, and the result was that 5 of them bought a demo pack, which is what we offered at that time, worth $500. The approach was simple and direct. Hey, how's it going? Get a response. The response then dictated the next question. If I got, well, not great, not bad, looking for something better, getting those type of comments, I would then ask my key question, which was, would you be interested in taking a look? I'm thinking of getting involved with this. And that was appropriate at the very beginning. Or you could say something like, I wanted to know if you'd be interested in taking a look at something I'm now very serious about. Or, I want to know if you'd be interested in taking a look at something I think might make tons of money. And those three statements, or something that you feel is appropriate to who you are. And that was the beauty of this. You could make it, because here's one of the keys. You're looking for people that are kind of like you, if you think about it. So all these people knew me, and they knew what I had been doing, and they had some idea of what I was about. Therefore, when I asked those questions, it was not a surprise or unfamiliar communication between whoever I was talking with. Now, as I also knew where they were at because of our social circumstance, friendship, lifestyle, etc., I knew what questions to ask to push the right buttons to get the right response. And the right response that I wanted was to be able to sit down and discuss the potential of what this had to offer, because in my opinion, my research, my understanding, my background, this was truly an awesome opportunity. Now, with the 8 that I couldn't sit down with, there was just no interest. And let me tell you that's fine. Don't worry about that. That's part of the game. You want to get rid of the no interest as fast as possible. Don't get stuck with people that aren't interested. Don't get stuck with chasing them. Just move on. Rapid flow. Bang, bang, bang. Next, 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 next. Not everyone's going to play. And that's just part of the process. And again, here's the key. It's beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And this is so appropriate to what you do. Your job is to create the curiosity for them to ask you, and then you provide them with the exciting information that would be a great solution to their problem, situation, or desire. Okay, so the stage is set. Here is an example. So after the first 5, there was only one that started to talk to others. So obviously, based on what I was told to do, I needed to find more. And I had passed a business associate that I hadn't considered. I didn't put him on my list. And his name was Howard. And he'd been an employee of mine in the business that I had finished with. And he was great. He was a great salesman. We had a lot of fun. We had a social connection. And it was everything to do with investments. So my initial thought was, and I don't advise you to do this at all, was I didn't think this would be for him. Silly me. So here's the rule here. Never prejudge anybody. I don't care who they are. Just don't prejudge them. Go through the process. Now, I called him up, and after a social chit-chat, found out that he was in between gigs. So he wasn't doing anything. And I knew his love for making a good living and the way his lifestyle was. So I said to him this exact statement. I think I found the goose that laid the golden egg. Would you be interested in taking a look and trying out this product? And he said, sure. What did he have to lose? I sent him a demo pad and let him sleep on it and so on and so forth. And 2 days later, lo and behold, he had sleep problems. He had sleep problems, and he had a couple of really great nights of sleep. And he calls me back, and this is what he said. I don't know what you got, but I'm in. And I just fell off my chair, really, in the sense of, wow, how simple is that? So with whomever, I spoke to whomever I could, and I used the same approach. Start with social chit-chat, see if they will ask you what you do, find out if they'd be interested in whatever your mantra is, 5,000 a month, looking for business opportunities, exploring new technologies, whatever. Or any questions that would lead to someone wanting to do this as a business and then joining your business. Okay, now let's talk about a complete stranger. So after a while, I ran out of friends to talk to or associates that I wanted to talk to at the time, and I did a lot of prejudging on who would and who wouldn't, and I had quite a bit of negativity about me doing this to begin with. So I threw an ad in the paper. And the ad said this: new Japanese company in town looking for distribution, $2,500 required for information, called Dave. And I put just a fake number. So, and I got a ton of responses, actually. And the goal was to find someone who wanted to play. And I went through an interview process. So they called me up and I interviewed them. You know, what do they do? What's their track record? What are they looking for? All that kind of stuff. Where, you know, the usual stuff that you would get if you were looking for a job. And I'd done this because of past experience and kind of knew the general way to go there. And then the idea was qualify them to see if they would potentially be interested based on my qualifications, was ability to communicate, was number one, and how intently they were listening. And this was done over the phone, and we didn't have smartphones and we didn't have the internet. And then it was followed by setting up an in-person interview where I can go over the whole thing. And I had an office right next to Nikken, so for me that was a little bit of an advantage, but not really, because I still had to have the product and from my place. So I got this call from Chuck Michael, and he was a commercial real estate man, called me up and wanted to come see me at my office. I mean, like, bang, he drove an hour and a half to our meeting. So to me, that was a really good sign. He was interested in what we talked about. And so here we go. So now I was only in my second month with Nikken. I didn't have much of a track record. I think my first month I made 430. And I think by the end of the second month, I was somewhere around 4,000, whatever. I can't remember exactly, but somewhere in that realm. But I was motivated, and I had the intention to become successful. So his industry fell apart and was dead, and there was no sales being made. And he was a family guy. He had 2 kids. He had a mortgage, a car payment, life insurance, all of those things, what we called a 4-pointer at that time. And I showed him the concept of what we had and how it works. Man, he was in. He bought both packs just on the spot. And we then set up a plan to meet on the coming Monday in his area. And I said I'd go down there and help him do whatever, make the presentations, etc., etc. So he was elated. Now, little did I know what was going to happen next. For the next 2 weeks and beyond, I mean, it just kept on going for years. But for the next 2 weeks, he had me talking with 10 to 15 people a day. And out of that, he found his 3 key partners, and his business took off like a rocket. Well, why? Well, he was motivated. He was trying to provide. You see, necessity is the mother of invention here. You show somebody what the deal is, and if they can see the potential, man, it's like it's game over. So bang, away we went. And all of this was placing an ad and presenting a solution in front of a man who needed one. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Now, what about a casual acquaintance? Well, once I had my initial 3 frontline, my focus really, from the time I had the 3 key people, was depth. So I was working on my 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and below. In my organization, making sure that those teams were winning and were creating volume, which then was my future income and residual income. Now I got to Diamond and had 3 strong legs, but to get to the next level, I needed to build again. Now I didn't stop. Once I reached Diamond, the next month I was on to Royal Diamond. So it wasn't like a 90-day push and then 3 years later another 90. It was just a continual push till I got to the top. Now, in building, so I needed 3 new people to again get to the next level, and so that was the task. And so I had one that was already a silver, but he wasn't really building a team. The second was another distributor that never did much. I think he kind of inherited that position. I think it was like a roll-up of some kind. And then the third person didn't exist at all. So I did what we typically do. I drew it up on a board. I put the circles on the wall. I said, okay, I go out every day. I've got to fill in these holes and get somebody in. And that was the mantra. It took me 24 months of doing that to get the job done. Now, none were really close. None of these people were really close. And I would categorize them as casual acquaintances. And then the second and third were neighbors, and I'd never met them. So these weren't even in the picture at this point in time when I started. And this wasn't the best circumstance, but the desire and the intention and the imagination was there to get the job done. Okay. So I skipped Joe, who was an existing silver at the time. He eventually became a platinum. He's still doing the business on a very part-time basis. And Frank, who was a silver, he's no longer with us. He dropped his body a while back, and he inherited the position and never built it. And then I got to start with my neighbor Ralph and his wife Jerry, who I didn't know. Now, here's the situation. Ralph was building, and again, he was not in my radar, and this was silly, but anyway, this is the story. He was building their dream home. I love construction projects, and this is how we met. I also had an electrical issue in my house that I needed help with, and that's how it started. He fixed the electrical issue, but he wouldn't take any money, so I gave him some Nikken products as a thank you, and that was that. Game over. I never even thought of him as a distributor, so that conversation never came up, and he never asked me what I did. That was interesting. In the time, it was like several months that we had this conversation. He never asked me what I did. So I'm sure I thought about it, but that's what happened. Then a month later, he calls me up and asks me, what do I do? Just out of nowhere. Now, the circumstances why he asked, somebody told him that the products that he received were very expensive and, blah, 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 and he got curious. So that's where the jury begins. So here's another lesson. Just talk to everyone, as you never know what can happen. So the situation that was going on with them was his wife worked in corporate America, and she had an hour commute both ways every day. And they were trying to figure out a way for her to work from home so they could work together. She would do most of the work, but he would help her while they were building this house. And they were a little older, and this was part of their retirement plan. So I presented the Nikken solution. Simple. Just this is what I've done. This is what's there. This is what we have to do. The same stuff that you would do with anybody else. And they said, perfect, love it. Let's go to work. So that was the deal. She got her severance package, was able to work. So in that next year, we built her to platinum, which was what I needed to go Royal Diamond. And I was interested to help her build. She was interested to get them. And I don't know, they made a few $100,000 in the next 3 years and sailed off into the sunset and retired. Okay. And all this happened because I would talk to a neighbor because I was curious about what they did, So the final piece to my puzzle was a new next door neighbor, that someone I'd never known before in a friendly meeting, and he traveled all over the world. And he was in audio, and he put in speakers and audio and recording equipment for big venues and all that stuff all over the planet. And so we had a conversation about the fact that at that time we were doing business all over the world of what he could create, and he just went cuckoo nuts wild over the concept and the idea, and bingo bango, and he went to platinum, and he was the third person for me to go royal. So in the end, and reviewing this, all I did was I told the story about Nikken, what could be done by being involved, and I had the production and track record to support the story that was true from day one. And that was the story. It was always based on where I was at. It was never based on anything fictitious. This is where I'm at, this is where I'm going, or this is what I did and where I want to continue to go. So in summary, I wanted to talk to as many people as I could, knowing that it wasn't what I thought, but it was what did they see, understand, and think about. And the job is to get them interested in this for what they want and based on who they are and based on their circumstance. Now, I can tell you there are thousands of reasons and circumstances and situations and desires that the people you talk to have, but if you talk to them about their stuff, it works best. You only use your stuff to validate the potential for them. In other words, if you had a big owie and that got fixed, well, that's only going to work if they have an issue that they need to deal with and they're looking for that validation. Yeah, work for you, it could work for them. Okay, that's the way it works. So they may not have the same issue that you had or have. So therefore, don't lead with that. Find out what their scene is first, then use you and your story as the example. The first thing I did was create a plan of what needed to be in place to get what I wanted. I would then create a picture of that structure, and you've seen that in prior videos that was required, kind of like an architect would create a picture of a home that you wanted to build. Then each day I would look at that blank space and imagine having a name of an active distributor fill that space. Then each day I would go out and do the activities that would lead to that. That was talking to people, asking questions, calling people up, asking for referrals, even going out and talking to people in the public. Whatever it took, I was willing to do. And eventually the spots got filled up and I reached my targets. So when you understand the structure and you see what needs to be built, this becomes rather easy. Find your key personally sponsored distributors. That's 3 people at the most. That's all you need. Then the rest of your time will be helping them and others grow and build their organizations. Because that's how it works. And you'll find out about that in other videos as well. And your success in finding distributors becomes invaluable in helping teach others what to do and how to do it, as this is the way this business really works. You're a team. And once your organization starts to grow, what becomes important is the activity that goes on below you. And the most important activity that you can learn and the best skill is to develop communicating with others and getting them interested in what you have. It's storytelling at the finest. So we are a business that is based in communicating with others. The more people you speak with, and the more results you will get. Create your scripts, practice what you will say, and go out and have fun. So again, thank you very much for participating with this. I'm going to end the presentation at this time, and watch out for new presentations, and hope to see you on the Nikken Highway soon. And have a wonderful day. And let's stop the presentation.